To be on.
I want to talk about the Tablighi Jamaat. They're a movement that aims to call Muslims, followers, back to the faith. And there are millions of followers all over the world, mostly in Southeast Asia. Dr. Shabir, can you tell me a little bit about what the goals of this movement is?
The goals are actually identified in 6 points, which are regularly preached. But if we summarize those 6 points, we can say that the overall goal is to make Muslims better Muslims. Mm-hmm. And the thought is that, behind the movement is that, look, Muslims as they are now, we can see that Muslims overall, as a global community, as an ummah, do not have that kind of status and glory that we used to have in the past. So how can we recover that glory? Some people think it's by going into politics and getting political power and imposing Islam as a way to be followed and so on. But this movement takes a different approach and says, no, even if you have political power, if you don't have people who are sincerely devoted to the faith, like what are they going to impose with their political power? It won't be Islam, it'll be something else. Mm-hmm. To them, the most important thing is to develop the individual, make the individual Muslims good human beings, devoted.
So spiritual development.
Spiritual development, okay. Yes. Make them sincere to the faith and good servants of God. And then if they get political power, then they will be able to implement political power for the benefit of humankind according to the dictates of God. Otherwise, you give them political power, they'll misuse it. Mm-hmm. So to them, the main thrust and the unwavering focus is on the spiritual development of Muslims. To say it in Arabic is Islahul Muslimin.
So how do they focus on that spiritual development? What do they do?
So I mentioned the 6 points. So let me just elaborate on that, and that will explain a lot of what. So the 6 points that they always emphasize in their preaching and in everything is that first, that we must get a clear conception of and attachment to the pronouncement of faith that makes a person Muslim. That's simply put is the kalima of Islam, which says there is no God but God and that Muhammad is the messenger of God. So we should be thoroughly committed to that. We're not going to worship anyone other than God. We're going to be intensely devoted to God. And also, we're going to follow the way of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because just simply pronouncing that he's the messenger of God is not the end of the matter. By making that official pronouncement that makes a person a Muslim, we are actually committing ourselves to, act as if he's the messenger of God. So he brought a message from God for us to follow and practice. So we should follow him as an example that was set from God as a human being for us to follow. So that's the first point. The second point is the prayers. The daily prayers of Muslims, according to them, this is of paramount importance, trumping all other obligations. And we may as well get this one right. And if we get this one right, then other things will fall into place. So be sincerely devoted in your prayers. Do them on time, regularly, without fail. Do them in the mosque if you have the opportunity to do so, and so on. This is all emphasized. And then have sincerity and devotion within the prayer itself. A person may be praying here, but his mind is wandering all over the place. Be devoted in the prayer. So that's the second point. The third point is actually a combination of 2 points, which they say go hand in hand. One is ilm, the knowledge, and the other is dhikr, or remembrance of God. They say that the two are like 2 wings, and you need both to fly. So if somebody has knowledge of the religion, but they don't have the attachment to God, then that knowledge can get them puffed up with pride. That will be harmful to them. Mm-hmm. And if they have the remembrance of God, they're attached to God, they want to please God in every way, but they don't have the knowledge, they may do something wrong thinking that they're going to please God thereby. So you need both to balance it out, the proper knowledge and the attachment to God going hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So that's the third point, which is a combination of 2. And the fourth point, they say, is that we should honor other Muslims. They call this ikram al-Muslimin. And of course, we should all honor all human beings as Muslims. But there is a particular emphasis within this movement to honor Muslims because they are your first call. Mm-hmm. They are, this is where the charity begins at home. If you can't be good to your fellow Muslims, how can you be good to anyone else? So recognize the value of Muslims. These are people who, like you, are saying the kalima of Islam. There's no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God. These are dear to God. As long as the person remains saying Allah, Allah, the God will keep the universe in establishment. So you see how valuable the human being is, the Muslim in particular. So honor the Muslim. respect and serve other Muslims. And the fifth point they say is tashih al-niyya, correcting the intention. One might be doing a lot of good work, one might be giving charity, but he wants to do this for show. Don't do it for show, do it for the pleasure of God, and always keep correcting your intention, whatever good deed you're doing. Check yourself at the beginning. Am I going to do this for the God, for the sake of God? Check yourself in the middle. Did my intention change somewhere in between? Did Satan cause me to veer from the right path, and suddenly I'm doing it for my own sake, for my own name and fame and personal glory? And then check yourself at the end as well. After you've done everything, don't say, okay, I've done a good job there, but ask yourself, did you really do it for the pleasure of God? So this is emphasized a lot. Check your intention and correct it, along the way. Finally, the sixth point is that you should set aside time, dedicate time to learn and preach the religion. To learn, to develop your own self, really. So this entails going out in what they call khuruj fi sabilillah, going out in the way of Allah, to use the Arabic term. And that would entail that you are giving at least 10% of all intervals of time. So in a day, you might want to spend 2.5 hours. You've done your daily routines, you've gone to work 8 hours in the day, you've looked after your family and all of that. So 2.5 hours, go to the mosque and see how you can serve the mission within this 2.5 hours time. 3 days within a month. Of course, it's piling up, so it's now becoming 20% because 3 days in a month is 10%. 2.5 hours each day is already more than 10%. So it's a combined, right? Overlapping. But 3 days within a month, you go away. You're going to leave your family, your business, and all of that. You're going to go, as they say, in the way of God. And you're going to be, during these 3 days, you're going to be developing yourself, immersing in worship and reading the Quran, and also in preaching the message to other people. And finally, or not necessarily finally, but penultimately, 40 days in every year. So, 40 days times 10 would have been 400. So it's at least 10%. And then at least once in a lifetime. One should go for 4 months altogether. So in a 4 months stretch, one, they say, would have a life-changing experience. You would be firmly then placed on the mission. You would have now everything, clear to you as a result of spending the 4 months all at once, detached from all of your worldly commitments, your job and all of that, but you've gone out in a kind of a sabbatical. I should add that my this idea of 10% is my own take. And maybe this is a good point at which I can mention that the mission is dear to me because I am actually one of the products of that mission. Mm-hmm. And I used to go out, but I didn't do the 4 months. Okay. And what I didn't do so very well. But may God forgive me for that. But
so what did you learn from that experience?
Well, there are a lot of good things that I learned from that. One thing that I hope I still carry is humility. In the mission, like no one as a preacher, like I spoke about these 6 points. You can see I was able to almost rattle them off because even though it's been decades now, but I had a refresher, but still. I spoke about it many times, but when as part of that mission and its work, no speaker is introduced. Nobody comes to the beginning and say, I'm a master of ceremonies and I'm not going to introduce you this great speaker. Because the idea in the mission is that, God is great and we're going to celebrate the greatness and glory of God, not the glory of any individual. We're not going to say that here it is this great person. The person doesn't matter. What matters is the message, and it's the message about God, and God matters.
I think I was